The fallout from ABC's decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely continues this morning with a wave of reaction from Hollywood to Washington. Protesters packed the streets outside of Disney and ABC headquarters in both New York and Los Angeles yesterday, carrying signs with slogans like "Defend Free Speech." Many comedians and celebrities also rallied around Jimmy Kimmel and against what they view as a threat to the First Amendment. Podcaster Mark Maron said this is what authoritarianism looked like. Actor and director Ben Stiller posted, quote, "This isn't right." And former late-night host David Letterman had this to say.
I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
Democratic leaders are also speaking out. Former President Barack Obama posted on social media, quote, "After years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like." Top House Democrats, meanwhile, are calling for FCC Chairman Brendan Carr to resign, arguing he has, quote, "engaged in the corrupt abuse of power." And the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee says he will launch an investigation into the Trump administration, ABC, and Sinclair amid, quote, "ongoing efforts to censor opposition to the president." And as Joe mentioned, the Wall Street Journal editorial board is reacting to Kimmel's suspension in a new piece entitled "The FCC, Disney, and Jimmy Kimmel." It reads in part, quote, "Regulatory power in the hands of a willful president can too easily become a weapon against political opponents, including the media. The squeeze on Disney looks to be a case of cancel culture on the right. For a decade or more, the voters who backed Mr. Trump watched and listened as coastal elites of media and entertainment showed their contempt for middle American values. Those coastal grandees shouldn't be surprised now if the public isn't as outraged as they are by the Carr FCC's abuse of its power against opponents. We want to be clear that none of this justifies the right's resort to regulatory censorship. As victims of cancel culture for so long, conservatives, more than anyone, should oppose it. The political cycle of using government to punish opponents is taking the country into dark corners that will result in less freedom and less free speech for all sides. The best immediate remedy is getting the FCC out of the business of regulating media. Meanwhile, President Trump and FCC Chairman Brendan Carr are celebrating ABC's decision and are signaling the crackdown may not stop there.
Are you going to ask Brendan Carr to weigh in on other late-night hosts that you have announced?
Well, you know, when a late-night host is on network television, there is a licensing. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It would be up to Brendan Carr. He had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings. His ratings were worse than Colbert, I think. They got rid of Colbert, which was a good thing to do. And look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing, too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
Asked earlier about Fallon and Seth Meyers, but is the president's view that they should also be taken off the air shared by the FCC?
Well, yeah, I don't speak for the president, so obviously, he speaks for himself on that. Our goal and our obligation here is to make sure that broadcasters are serving the public interest. And if there's local TV stations that don't think that running that programming does it, then they have every right under the law in their contracts to preempt it. And we'll see how this plays out. But I do think that, again, we're in the midst of a massive shift in dynamics in the media ecosystem for lots of reasons. Again, including the permission structure that President Trump's election has provided. And I would simply say we're not done yet with seeing the consequences of that shift.
Well, what does that mean when you say you're not done yet, then? I mean, will you only be pleased when none of these comedians have a show on broadcast television?
No, again, it's not about any particular show or any particular person. It's just we're in the midst of a very disruptive moment right now, and I just frankly expect that we're going to continue to see changes in the media ecosystem.
Mika, we had talked about how obviously the Wall Street Journal editorial page had come out against this. I've got to say also, somebody who usually is in support of most of Donald Trump's policies on the Wall Street Journal editorial page, Kimberly Strassel, writes a very tough op-ed. And its headline, Back Dissenter Culture, and talks about how it wasn't too long ago, she said, the right was criticizing the left for canceling people. Now, the right is doing the same thing. We've talked about it before, but think about the madness of all of this. Again, you've got now the MAGA right being champions of cancel culture. You've got the MAGA right now trying to crush free speech after being supposed free speech absolutists. You have Pam Bondi talking about going after Home Depot if they won't print out flyers, certain political flyers, maybe arrest them, talking about firing. And again, the idea that squads of people are going around and saying, don't worry, Charlie, we're going to find people who used free speech in a way you wouldn't have liked and get them fired from their jobs.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me? This is the very thing that he and the MAGA movement and the free press that were complaining about for a decade. And now they're taking it in a more extreme way than the left ever did. I mean, again, they've canceled 2 of 3 late-night show hosts in a short period of time, and now they're threatening retribution for people who won't print out flyers. They're threatening retribution for people that put out a mean tweet. I mean, we've made it very clear. We've made it very clear before that political violence is heinous. That against Charlie Kirk was absolutely just vile and heinous. And that's why we saw most sides strongly and roundly condemning that violence.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're actually doing the opposite of what Charlie Kirk talked about in his campus tours says all you need to know about these people.
Well, and they're sort of stepping on themselves. On the right, I was watching some podcasts on this, and they were obviously very right-leaning, and they, it would have made more sense in terms of what you think they said their values are, to say, I really didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel said, but he should not have been taken off the air because we believe in free speech. But you can also express doubt or disgust in what was said, but to then agree that he should have been pulled off the air totally turns everything they've ever been talking about
Canceled.
over. Yeah.
Canceled.
It doesn't,
and again,
it doesn't make sense.
They want to cancel late night hosts.
Okay.
And it's really unbelievable. I want to bring in David Drucker here. David, this is wild. Like, you've been following this for the past decade, and there's these free speech absolutists. Elon Musk, I'm going to take over Twitter and be a free speech absolutist. The free press, the free speech absolutists. All of these people on the MAGA right, free speech absolutists and against cancel culture. And it is playing out now in a way that you have an attorney general threatening to arrest people that don't print flyers. You have 2 out of 3 late night hosts canceled, completely canceled. And now they're going around and saying they're going to find people in their workplaces and get them fired if they put out an inappropriate tweet.
Yeah, we're clearly, Joe, living through an illiberal moment. I mean, you know, to your last point there, we have the Vice President of the United States asking Americans to rat out their neighbors. If you hear anybody saying something wrong or something that is vile or that is rude, rat them out. Make sure they get fired. Let's get rid of them. And I think the issue here is not so, well, there are several issues here. I think we need to be clear that if a private company or private institution doesn't want to platform somebody, doesn't want to put them on the air, doesn't want to give them a microphone, they don't have to. The First Amendment protects us from the government monitoring and regulating speech. But the problem is that's exactly what's happening here. When you look at what ABC did with Jimmy Kimmel, the issue isn't that maybe ABC, you know, looked at the finances, looked at the changing tastes of viewers when it comes to late night television and decided, given all the money they're paying him, they were going to move in a different direction. The problem is that this appears to be a very clear case of government coercion. And when you look at how Brendan Carr and President Trump are talking about this issue, Trump is actually more honest about it. I don't want these people on the air. I think the government has a right to get rid of them. I'm going to do it. And then Carr is weaselly about it in that he's like, hey, listen, it's not, you know, it's not the FCC. You know, maybe companies just will decide this on their own with the clear message being, this is what we would like you to decide without us wielding the hammer, and we'll reward you if you do it. I think that ultimately what is very ironic here is that President Trump campaigned specifically on, from his perspective, restoring free speech. And conservatives and people that flocked to his coalition were that was a very attractive message, because for people on the right, they feel as though they have not been allowed to say things they believe about controversial issues without fear of reprisal at work, in universities, even in government. And here somebody was saying, I'm going to put an end to that, and I'm going to even the playing field in terms of everybody's going to be able to speak their mind, not just people on the left. And here the administration is going in a completely different direction that's antithetical to American values, but also just runs headlong into the First Amendment.